All right. This is the Vision 79 podcast, where my friend Sander and myself, Mason, discuss recent developments in business and our personal growth. The name Vision 79 comes from our respective racing numbers. Sander's is 40, mine is 39, and we have a shared vision for success in business and our personal lives. Many successful people have started small, just like us, but very few of them have documented their early years. They often say they wish they had, and given we believe in learning lessons from others, we intend to be the first to document our journey from start to finish. Today, we'll be discussing the difference between being fat and being overweight, why we think there's a difference between the two at all, and if being fat can actually be healthy, and much more. But first, we like to start each episode with a brief update of where we're at in our business and personal lives, so that when we watch back these videos later in life, we can kind of tell where we're at. My biggest update is with me right now.
No way. Is it money?
I just gave you money. It's the brand new flavor of Celsius called Retro Vibe. It's sherbet sparkling slush edition. So this will give me cancer and make me gay.
Oh my God.
I'm so excited.
Man, Celsius was so excited about releasing that they couldn't even wait until June.
You know, I really don't want sponsors on this podcast, but if Celsius starts sending us boxes, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to talk about it anyway. Shred Bowl. You know what's crazy? I read this week that it's rumored that Aston Martin is moving Max Verstappen from Red Bull to Aston Martin on a $2 billion contract. Rumored they're going to pay, they're like, Max, we're going to pay $2 billion for as long as you want to race in F1.
Every year?
We're going to hand you $2 billion and then you race as long as you want to. So he could do $2 billion in 1 year, or he could race for the rest of his career and he'll get $2 billion total for it. That's the rumor. That's
fucking redonkulous.
What's your business update? Max is crushing it.
Ooh,
what are we up to?
Wild. I did not get offered $2 billion this week. I do have some interesting updates. I will note for future self, I haven't written shit down. I've been absolutely slammed. But this is what I got.
This is pretty good.
Is it? I'll try it.
It's like orange
in the break.
Sickle. Okay, got it.
So this week I've continued to battle Meta. They flagged another account. No, well, not yet.
Okay.
They flagged another account, and then they flagged my paid ad agency account as well.
What are they flagging it for? What's the
suspicious activity? But they don't give specifics.
Selling shit? I've seen people sell guns on Facebook Marketplace and not get flagged.
I honestly think I tried being like the retarded person and then like doing real slow on my fucking clicks, and it was still suspicious. Because initially I thought it was like, oh, I'm just clicking too fast.
What
or whatever.
Do you think is suspicious? Like
they don't give information. Like they don't tell you. So I don't know.
Mark, the fuck?
Facts. Yeah. Anyways, I've been flagged out of multiple accounts. The ad agency got flagged, so they have to create a new account for me. Mm-hmm. I give them a different business manager to hook it up to another one that I've created that's clean for now. And I'm just going to do it really fucking slow. Mm-hmm. Like dummy slow. Like I've already slowed it way down from where I want it to be in terms of like upload speed and, you know, posting and like blah, blah, and it still gets fucking flagged. So I'm just going to be like fucking Dumb and Dumber, like one ad for the next 2 days at $15 and then 2 ads at $25. So I just like fucking like get it something going.
Got it. And then maybe snowball from there and they won't think it's suspicious because you're setting the precedent earlier on maybe.
Yeah. So that's the hope. Fighting that. I've done a little bit of product research in the meantime, just getting a backup product, but the mentor I'm working with contacted me and he said, hey, I do product research on the side. He has multiple websites that he runs at the same time, but he's like, I also constantly look at products and I do research on them. I got a product. I built a quick website for it and quick ads for it, and it's doing really well without any input from me.
Cool.
And it was doing between around 600-700 a day up to like 1,400-1,600 a day for 2 weeks. And so about 25-30% of that is profit. Also, you're looking at, you know, around $150-$250 a day plus.
Yeah.
And that's profit on, you know, the product price and the cost to run ads and all the other stuff. So the profit's relatively good. He was like, I like this product a lot, but I have a couple big stores I'm building and scaling up right now to sell, because essentially he builds a store and then he sells it for like 50 grand or 80 grand. And then he builds another and sells it, builds another. And that's how he does it. And so he's like, I have a bunch that I'm building up right now to sell. I don't have time to do this one at the same time with the other stores I have going. I'll sell it to you if you want it. And I was definitely hesitant day one, for sure. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do this for a couple of reasons. One, I was like, I don't want to overload my plate with another store right now. And I also, this is a good chunk of money. And at the same time, it kind of felt like a cop out where I was like, I'm just going to buy into someone else's product. And then I'm like, it didn't really feel like my own thing.
Got it.
And then I thought about it a little bit more, and I was like, I thought of a couple things. First thing I thought of was I've saved up to give myself an opportunity like this, and I can take advantage of this opportunity because of the moves I've made. And for me to completely negate this opportunity entirely because I don't feel like it's the ground zero way that everyone else does, and it's not the grassroots method of like 0 to 100, I think that negates what the position I've tried to put myself in over the last months. Right? That's the first thing I thought of. Second thing I thought of, there's also going to be a lot of fucking work to scale it. So I'm going to learn a lot there. And it's going to be like, I have a store that I'm building from the ground up, and then his stuff would be, it's already here, and then I have to bring it up to here. So it's kind of be a good opportunity where I can do the grassroots thing and testing over here and have something sustainable that I know is a good base that I can scale from there. That way, when I get something to kick up to here on my original store, I already know the scaling process from a product that I know is good and works. So that was advantageous in my mind that way. And so I was thinking about it, and I was like, and the other thing too was this product without his input. He put the ads on Facebook and then he just let it run. He didn't touch them. He didn't change any metrics. He didn't scale anything. And he was like, I've let it run for 2 weeks. And he showed me like the stats and the data and, what it was doing. And I was like, you know what? If I were to be able to buy this and just have it run just as good as he's running it right now and not do anything, like that almost or does supplement my current income. Like I can buy my way into this and I can have potentially a business that I could scale in the next 2 weeks or a month, even just a little bit, and like more than supplement my income. So it's like, this is a vehicle potentially for me to get out of the 9 to 5. And then I have obviously my 40 hours plus back. Right. And so I was like, the more I thought about it, originally I was like, I told him, I was like, I'm interested, but I'm a little hesitant for X, Y, and Z reasons that I just.
Is it a 50, 80 grand store or is it a 40?
No, 3,500.
Okay.
Right now. So, and he said that he sold stores like this. And I obviously like, I'm talking here and there's a portion of the audience and a portion of everyone's mind that's like, how do you know it's true?
No.
Right?
It's just us.
Right.
This is just a month and 3 weeks or a month or
I believe it's true because he's been very, very honest with me so far. And he's been very good to me and his methods have worked and he knows his shit. And when I screen share with him and he goes through my stuff, like I can tell he's done this 100 times just by like the immediately knowing what to do, how to do it, and how to process it through. So I have confidence that he actually has a good product on his hands and that he has a good store going. And he's like, I know I could sell this for between 5 or 6 grand through the exchanges that I normally sell my bigger stores at. But because you're a student of mine and because you're one of the first students I have, I'm interested in helping you out or, one of the other students by passing this store on to you because I feel like you guys could grow with it. And then that could, obviously it's also incentive for him because I'm going to be having calls with him on how to scale it. And then on top of that, if this actually does really well, like he doesn't have, because he's trying to grow his mentoring business. He doesn't have incentive to charge me $3,500 and then give me a complete flop. And then for me to succeed in dropshipping with the stuff that I've learned so far and then completely rag him out at the end of the day. Right. And be like, this guy was terrible. This is how he screwed me, blah, blah, blah. Like there is an incentive in from that because he's trying to grow his personal mentorship side. And so I went for it.
I mean, at $150 a day, it pays itself off in 23.3 days. So like conservatively speaking, it might be less than a month to pay it off.
Right. And so it has stretched me incredibly thin, very thin.
But you like getting stretched.
I do. I do. That's wonderful. It has stretched me thin. I have enough to run ads. I have enough to get by. it is very tight for me right now. Very tight. And so it's pretty much all hands on deck on, once I get this. I haven't acquired it yet.
Got it.
I'll probably acquire it the weekend after the Rolex because I need to transfer my Chase into a Wise account, which is a global style account, and then from my Wise to transfer to him. I can transfer it through Chase, but the fees are enormous. For me to transfer $3,500 just anywhere in Chase, just for me to wire money through Chase,
Really?
the fees get high.
Man, that's
high. Yeah, it's like for some of my stuff, like even smaller stuff, like $400, it was like 10%.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So for me
aggressive.
So like for me to transfer $3,500 on a wire through Chase, I can, do a crazy fee on Chase, or I can create a free Wise account and their fee is $10.
Is Wise a bank, like an international bank, or?
Essentially, yeah. And so that's what I've done, and that's the transfer I'm going to go through. So I'm putting a rather large bet on this, but from the metrics I've looked at and seeing it, I have confidence that I can at least get my money back from it one way or another. Even if the product starts to taper, like the margin is there to where I can make my money back at minimum.
Right.
And the potential for it to grow beyond that is high. The other things that are really advantageous about it is he offered me to sell me just the product and the advertisements, and then I could build the store around it and run it myself through my own ad account and all that stuff. I rejected that offer
because you can't post the ads on Facebook.
Because I've had so many issues with Facebook.
Yeah.
I literally paid. He was like, I'd sell you just that for $1,500, or I'll sell you every single thing and put it in your name for $35.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there and I was like, I've wasted now 2 weeks of my time, which is $2,000 of pay for me at my regular job. A, B, I don't know when it will actually start, so it could be more than 2 weeks that I'm struggling with this thing, right? And then C, if I buy the full package, I have the opportunity to look through every single setting on the website he built and every single thing he did and exactly replicate it, right? Because every call, you can't go through every single setting on Shopify, right? But I could easily take ownership of the store and then spend 6 hours really diving into every single aspect of it and asking specified questions about why this is this way, why this is this way, right? Because there's only so much you can break down in a 1-hour call once a week, right? And so I was like, I have the opportunity to get an ad account that is already running stuff that I know is not getting money and is not going to block me.
Right.
I have the opportunity to get a store that has extended information that could prove useful to me, and I get a full package that's immediately ready to run within 24 hours, and it's something that could generate money. So I was like, I'll go for it. So that was my fucking Quicken is like screaming at me this month, and it's funny because it's a real weekend. It's all like multi-$1,000 shit. It's like, it's not like food or like drinks or like normal stuff. It's like a multi-thousand, like, you spent $3,600 this week. And I'm like, fuck.
Your monthly budget of $2,200 is over triple what it's supposed to be. I started watching this. Have you seen The Financial Audit with Caleb Hammer? He's got like a square head and like curly black hair, and he yells at people about their finances.
Got it.
It's essentially like a podcast. He has you on. So like, I'm Caleb.
Oh, I've seen this guy.
You rap all of your credit card statements. And and then he just has a
like,
fucking
what the
aneurysm.
fuck are you doing?
That. I've been watching a lot of that recently, and it's been fucking like so entertaining. Because there's some people that earn like way more money than us and burn all of it.
Yeah.
And then there's other people that make way less than us and way overspend, like even what we spend.
Yeah.
But it would be so funny. I'm considering applying to go on for him to be like, what the fuck why are you spending $500 on Kratom a month? What the fuck is wrong with you? Why don't you have a 401k? What the fuck is going on? And like have me just throw all my bullshit at him and then have him completely melt down and then like go back in 5 years, like when like everything is okay, and have him be like, dude, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. But you should apply. That would be a fucking podcast to watch.
Fucking rip me a new one.
Yeah, you need to go on right now though, because before it starts working, it looks really bad. So you need to go on, and because everyone who goes on is delusional. Everyone who goes on is like, oh well, it'll turn around. He's like, how? What are you doing? And they're like, well, I'll make it work. I'll manifest.
I have dead ass for future Sander. I have like $1,000 in my bank account right now, excluding that 3,500.
I just paid you $1,000 for the Daytona ticket.
I know.
$300.
That was including what you just gave me.
I just gave you $1,000.
I know. I have like fucking $40 in there right now.
I have $300 in my checking account, and I have $16 in my savings account, and then like the investment accounts, I have money, but like I don't want to touch them if I can because I think that the S&P 500 is going to do better as Trump's presidency starts.
Yeah.
So like I could cash it out now, or I could wait like fucking 6 months and then hopefully it'll go up by like 10%. Leave it there. I have it if if it's an emergency, but I really don't want to touch it. But like in the actual, like you have money to spend accounts, it's like I have a couple $100 and the Rolex this weekend and no paycheck in between.
I know. I'm sweating a little bit, but you know what? I thought of it this way too. If it's a complete flop, I'm not completely shit out of luck because I can always sell the BMW. In that, I can at least get 3,500 for it. Like, sure, at minimum, right? I can probably flip it in 24 hours for 3,500. I'm be like, first person with 3,500 cash gets the title, right? And that car will be gone in a day.
Well,
right?
But
even if that stuff doesn't work out or it flops later on or something like that, like I've always been able to pull myself out of the immense grind times that are like really fucking hard sweats.
Great at pulling it.
And so I am great at pulling it. I'm making a lot of analogies like that today.
I don't know.
But you know what? I was like, I'm going to figure it out regardless. This is an important opportunity. I'm going to take advantage of it.
The benefit is like, even if you paid 50 grand for the store and then Facebook blocked your ads, you weren't able to make any money. You sold it for 10. So you're down 40, you sold all your cars, sold all your belongings, and then hoard out your body. Like you still have an engineering salary. And even if the economy goes to shit, we go back to war or something and they shut down all of NASA and you're out of a job, you still know how to work on cars. So it's like, and you have tools. So like, even if you still have a way to make money, right? Eat. Yeah. And from there you can build up.
Yeah, I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, as long as I got a laptop and a Wi-Fi connection, like I can make this work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I could do something.
Yeah.
But that is my largest business update of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Addition to that, work has just been crazy. I work 6 days plus overtime on each day, in person all days. And then I was overdoing oil changes on both my vehicles, so I knocked those out this morning. And then made a little bit of extra money doing an extra oil change. So just been crazy. Going to bed between 12 and 1 a.m. and then waking up at 6 every day. So it's burning me out a little bit. But I'm just kind of chugging through. I slept like 7 hours last night. So
you're pissing off everybody with the standard 9 to 5 and like 2 kids. You're all like, that's my fucking schedule every day, damn it. That's you're pushing it.
Yeah. But it's a different kind of burnout when it's like people with families probably have the same deal, but it's like when you go to work and then the work I'm doing is like genuinely very fast paced. And so it's like very, very fast paced for like 9-10 hours a day. And then you go home and then it's like drop shipping meta support team issues for the rest of the evening. Yeah. And it's like, fuck, dude,
Yeah.
I just burn you out.
I like the fast paced stuff.
Me too. But it's wearing on me a little bit. Just generally, because like this morning I woke up and I was like, fuck, like I need oil changes on these vehicles. Like I can't even drive to work on Monday. Like I got to knock this out. You know what I mean? And I was like, the house is a mess. The laundry isn't done. And, like it just like stuff throughout this week, just juggling stuff in my head, I
think I like the fast paced stuff for like the same reason that I like opioids, which is that it's not the actual feeling of having the fast paced stuff. It's the feeling of taking a break to turn everything off. So like the more it's great because I'm going through the real estate course at the same time as I'm watching Grace do real estate. So it's kind of like I'm learning and watching at the same time. Yeah. So it's like I'm a part of the conversations that Grace is a part of, but I'm still taking the course and learning the fundamentals at the same time. But I can already tell, and I'm getting really excited because I know that the level Grace is doing it at is not going to be the level that I'm going to do it at. I'm going to get fucking fully addicted and go hard in the paint. It's going to be a lot, and I'm going to cram in as much as I fucking can. But I'm getting excited about it because I like that, like phone calls every 15 minutes and like constant text.
Well, that's part of the reason I went for that business, the $3,500 business, to buy too, because like this is gonna put me in a position to absolutely make me fucking go.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And like that was part of the excitement too. Was like, I gotta turn the heat up. You know what I mean? Right.
What I like about the heat is that I was already thinking in advance. Like, okay, well, Tyler used to lift weights in high school. Like he was on the powerlifting team in high school, and now he's like 110 pounds. He's tiny. And he says it's because he's just working so much and he enjoys it. And so he just doesn't make the time for the gym. But I really enjoy the gym. But I don't want to be on the phone while I'm at the gym. I want to just focus on the gym while I'm at the gym. And so I've already thought about it. And I told Grace the other day, I was like, I wish I could have like a button that I press that just automatically sends messages to anybody who tries to reach out to me that says, hey, I'm busy until, 2 hours from now.
I bet there's an AI app that will auto message for you.
I don't know. I would like something like that, where like if someone tries to call me, it goes straight to voicemail. It's like, hey, I'm at the gym till 8. I'll call you back after, or something like that.
Yeah.
Something that tells you like I'm gonna get back to you in X.
This is an emergency. Call 911.
Yeah, something like that. Right.
That's the Alex Hormozi principle. He's like, just turn your phone off. Like if people contact you and it's a genuine emergency, they'll call 911.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. What I'm excited about the fast-paced shit, because it gives me the opportunity to not feel guilty losing time at the gym. Because right now it's like, well, I'm at the gym, I could be doing a real estate course. But if I'm doing real estate all of the time, then going to the gym feels like it's relaxing, even though I'm getting physical work done there.
Right.
I'm really amped for that.
I hear you.
But that's why I like the fast-paced stuff.
Yeah, I hear you. But that's about all of my updates. There's so much bullshit, odd end stuff that needs to be done in my life in general, and I've like neglected so much of it. Just like car work and housework and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Beamer has a list of a dozen things it needs, but it started this morning, and today is today, so it's still going. But I did figure out on the funny thing on the Beamer, my DSC module, my ABS module is okay.
Okay.
It's okay. It healed itself. Okay. I ran it through a brake bleed test, and it performed twice in a row. Perfect. And I don't have codes for that pump or that module anymore. I don't have codes for it. I do have a code for the pre-charge pump, but the pre-charge pump is separate, and I can replace that individually, and I don't have to send out the module, which is a big win, because sending out that module is A, time consuming, and B, expensive.
That's good.
So what I'm trying to do is, if I need to sell that car, I'm going to try and keep it healed for a little bit and then flip it to the next person and just do the pump and be like, yeah, man, it's good. And then just fucking
You got a good deal on the car though. So like, even if you do have to sell it at a loss, you'll still probably make or break even on it.
I mean, I could get $5,000 for the car. I'm confident.
Yeah. But you paid what? $3,000?
No, I paid $5,000.
You paid $5,000?
I paid $5,000.
That one?
Yeah. I've paid $5,000 for, I think, every single vehicle I've ever bought, which is really funny.
Do we pay $5,000 for the 330?
We paid $5,000 for the 335. I paid $5,000 for the 330. I paid $5,000 for the 530.
That's funny.
So my next car has to be $50,000.
I paid $5,000 for the Camaro, but I paid like $2,700 for the Firebird, and then I sold it for like $3,200. So I made money, but I also crashed it twice and blew a head gasket. So really, I lost a lot.
But you learned a lot too, and that's
I did learn a lot. I did. And that was a beater car anyways. Yeah. So my business update. On Friday, I quit my job to pursue my career as a TikTok influencer.
No, you didn't. Because TikTok is banned.
It is. Yeah, for now. But I was watching.
So you tried a VPN in Canada or something to see if you could access it?
So last night, I was on the app scrolling. I had the app open from earlier in the day. Like I didn't swipe up and close the app. So at like 9 o'clock last night, I was on it for like 10 minutes while I was waiting for Grace to get out of the shower. And as I was scrolling, I was seeing videos, but all of the accounts were deleted. So I couldn't actually go in and see the comments. I couldn't go into the accounts, but I could still see the videos. And I was like, what the fuck is all this? And so I closed the app to reboot it. And that's when I got the message that it was like, oh, we're shut down. But I was in the aftermath for a minute. And some of the videos were funny. One of the guys was like, like, oh, are you scrolling through TikTok for the last like 10 minutes just to see what people are posting? And then like it cut to a different angle to him, and he was like, yeah. He was like, what you seeing? Is it all protest buttholes? And the guy was like, it's not just buttholes. It was funny, but I didn't see any of that. But anyways, I anticipate that they'll probably sell to.
I saw a guy post a camera roll reel of him working at a really high-end auto shop, and he was not allowed to post any pictures prior, but he was like, fuck it, I'll send it on TikTok for the last day. And so, dude, it was like, fucking.
Did you have any photos?
No, I didn't.
Damn.
I should have. I should have fucking screenshot it. I totally forgot. But dude, there was a fucking Chiron with the whole back end taken off of it.
That's
Like
sick.
driving around like in the like it was pulling
on
into a
property.
Yeah. There was a Chiron with the whole back end taken off of it. Like you see everything exposed. There was a fucking F50. There were Carrera GTs torn apart.
That's sick.
It was wild shit, dude. There was a fucking Agera RS on the fucking lift, like being torn up for a service, like crazy.
How cool would it be to own one of those shops, dude?
Dude, he's
Sick.
wild. Yeah. So
You would make great connections with your customers, like with your clients.
Yeah.
You know. So you saw the F40 that crashed, the service tech, whatever, it flipped on its side. Did you know that Lando Norris's F40 was also crashed by his technician like a month ago?
oh,
It wasn't as bad. It spun and then it hit the rear on something. It didn't flip.
Okay.
But yeah, so 2 F40s taken damage recently.
yeah.
Um,
Ferrari will rebuild them. Remember that one that caught fire in Monaco? Remember,
rebuilt that? That was rebuildable?
That was rebuilt by Ferrari.
Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Not
So they'll rebuild both
not
those
for
cars.
free.
I don't think so. I wouldn't assume so. I didn't look into it, but Ferrari did have that car in their shop rebuilding
That's cool.
at the Ferrari factory.
I think McLaren does the same thing with the F1. I know they still produce all production parts for those cars. And
Yeah.
they say they will forever. It's just cool. Like even the tires. Like they will recreate everything for that car for eternity, they say.
That's very cool.
Yeah, Grace is bummed because she has all her food recipes on TikTok, and she was like, I was gonna go in and save them before they deleted it, and like they deleted it before midnight, so like I'm bummed.
We should try the VPN in our break, see if we can get it to
Yeah, we
load up.
I told her, I was like, you know, if you have to make the choice between losing a couple of recipes or like China having access to influence over billions of Americans, it's probably okay to just lose the food recipes. I'm glad it's gone, but I hope it comes back, but in safer hands.
Oh, I wanted to mention something. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. I'm
No, do you
interrupting
think-
your pitch. I was gonna say I have an excellent idea for drop shipping that's related to this ban.
Okay.
My prediction is that everyone on TikTok will start to use Instagram and Facebook.
They're already there. My fucking
the
car
same-
accidents and
for the
deaths are ruined.
same things they use TikTok for. So I'm going to take the video ad structure that was given to me specifically for TikTok and start marketing it to Facebook to beat the curve, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to put all that stuff on Facebook, go through the same style ad process as TikTok,
Right.
but do it on Meta just as the wave is hitting so that I can catch early on the ad stuff for the dropshipping. I just want to mention that.
And
I think that's a good idea.
your Instagram reels also using Meta,
Yeah,
which you love to use.
I do love. It'll be so much fun. I'm so excited.
They've already started the fucking infiltrate because all of my fucking OnlyFans girls are gone. All of my car accidents, all of my deaths, all the racist memes, all that shit's gone. So like, what the fuck? What good is Instagram reels?
You can find the racist memes though. I've found them everywhere successfully.
Those are the least important ones. I just hard-nosed it for. So, anyways, here's my actual business update. I'm still doing the real estate course. I'm on unit 12 of 19, and I just completed the longest unit of the course, which talks about contracts. And contracts is not what I thought it was. I thought it was like there's a contract in which you buy a home and that's it. There's not. There's formal contracts, there's informal contracts, there's bilateral contracts, there's unilateral contracts, there's express contracts, there's implied contracts, there's executory contracts, and then there's executed contracts. So that's fucking 8 different contract styles, of which there are subsets. So that unit took a while. I'm at 143 pages of notes so far.
Woo.
So I have no fucking idea how someone like Tyler took the in-person course over the course of 2 weeks and then passed the test, because he's got the attention span of a gnat and the memory retention of a fucking gerbil. So I don't know how he remembered anything to pass the fucking test. I think I'm really giving way too much effort to this course. I could probably complete it faster.
But it might make you a better realtor in the long run.
I think it'll make me a better realtor in the long run. I think it's making me more comfortable with all of the terminology, and really what makes a good realtor is not knowing the process, but I think what makes a good realtor is what makes a good accountant, which isn't they just know how to like do your taxes. It's they know the extra thing that they can do to save you money, right?
Yeah.
And this is helping me learn the extra thing. Also, Tyler doesn't have his notes from this course. Tyler doesn't have the textbook from this course. Tyler doesn't have the course material from this course. Because as soon as you finish it, you lose access to your profile, like your account. Like you can't get back into your,
FITPE account.
Exactly. But I'm typing all this out in Google Docs. So at any point during my real estate career, I can Control F through my what will probably be a 300-page notes doc, and I can pull up information on anything. And And that's really interesting because I have an idea for starting a company down the road, which there's a lot of people that are interested in getting the real estate license. Either the test is too boring or they get the test done, they get their license, and then they join a brokerage and then they can't make any sales because they don't know how to be a real estate agent, because the course teaches you about real estate, but not about selling. So if I could start a brokerage that helps you from literally step one to making your first sale and beyond, there's a huge gap that just is not filled right now. And I love filling gaps. So if I'm taking like diligent notes here, then I can, feed that to ChatGPT and compound it later.
Yep.
So I'm frustrated with how long it's taking, but it's also like getting my feet very firmly planted on the ground so that when I can take off running, I'm going to fucking crush it. So one of the ideas that I have is to get people. So when you're buying a home, you work with the real estate agent to find the house that you want to buy, right? Real estate agents can work with people who are renting too. So if you don't like your roommates, or you have to break your lease, or you're done at the end of this lease and you want to move somewhere else, it's on you to go out and look at all these apartment complexes, right? Not true. You can have a real estate agent help you with it, because some apartment complexes appreciate real estate agents finding tenants to fill their vacancy. So they'll give the equivalent of like the first month or two of rent to the real estate agent as payment. So you get help finding an apartment complex for free. You're going to pay the rent anyway. And then the apartment complex pays your real estate agent, right? Well, not all apartment complexes pay commission. So if you ask them, they'll tell you, but they can't publicly list it anymore because of the new laws about listing commission. So I told Grace, I was like, well, what if I just make a list of every apartment complex in Brevard and their phone number and their email and like a description, kind of like I did with our insurance list. And then one day, like we just sit down, I'll start at the bottom, you start at the top, and we just burn down the list until we meet in the middle and figure out who offers commission. That way, if anybody comes to us looking for rent, we already know which ones probably we aren't going to offer to them because they don't pay commission, right? Or we can tell them, hey, you could look at this one. None of them really fits our bill, right? And I'm not going to do it without getting paid. You're not going to pay me out of pocket. So that's cool. And then for my life update, it's been mostly that. I found the Caleb Hammer financial audit videos, which are really fun. And then taxes. I learned all about the business tax filings for Kahuna Cravings last week.
Thank you.
I learned all about, I'll run you through that after this. I learned all about my 1040 because I've never had to file taxes myself before. I've been a dependent. So my mom has filed my taxes for me because I lived with my family.
Got it.
So this is my first year doing it on my own.
Are you doing TurboTax?
I'm doing it all myself.
Okay,
Raw dog.
got it.
Yeah. My mom.
I did TurboTax last year. It was easy.
My mom used Tax Act, which is like a similar type of thing.
Okay.
You just feed it all the info and then it populates the sheet for you, I think. And then she gave me the printout of my tax return from last year so that I can have it on my records.
Yep.
But they don't have that really for the 1065, which is the business form. And plus, like, I'm going to have to give someone access to the bank account for our stuff and then pay them. And I don't want to take money out of the business. If we can just do it, it's really easy. We don't have that many exchanges anyways. So I just listed it all out in an Excel sheet and then figured out how to do it like line by line with ChatGPT. And I figured it out and it wasn't that hard. And I was like, well, the 1040 can't be as hard as this was, right? So then I just went and I did the 1040. And I didn't have my W-2 at the time from my employer, but I found the portal to do it. So I found out once you fill out your 1040, there's a free filing service with the IRS for you to file your 1040. Interestingly, if you earn less than $73,000 a year, they'll give you a form and steps on how to fill it out. If you earn more than $73,000 a year, they just give you the form and you have to figure it out on your own. And I think that's because they want people who earn more money to make mistakes on that forms that they can collect on your mistakes.
That's interesting.
Interesting, right?
I'm going to be right on that line because I did a good amount of overtime this year. I don't know where I'm going to be at. I think I'm probably going to be right around 73. So I don't know. Because my base pay is 69. And I had
73. It's 73 taxable income, I think.
Well, my overtime is taxed too, right? So yeah, I had some months where I did somewhere between like $800 or $1,000 of overtime.
Oh,
and my base pay is like 69,500.
Got it. Okay,
so 69,420. I had typically.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be right on that line. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you'll have the $14,000 standard deduction because it's $14,600 for the 2024 tax year. Plus we have an $800 deduction from Kahuna.
Okay,
so you can take.
Is that each?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And so we spent $1,600 on miscellaneous shit.
No, we spent $2,300, but we profited a different margin, and then it equals out to a negative count, which we can count against our 10.
Okay. You'll show me to do this all later.
Yeah. But the TLDR is we spent more than we made, so it's a negative number, and we can take that off our taxable income.
I got it.
But anyways, they, For the 1040, they give you a free way to file it. For the 1065, they don't give you a free way to file it unless you submit it by mail. So you have to pay someone to submit your business account for you unless you do it by mail. I'd prefer to do it by mail so that we don't have to spend any money on it, but we'll see how we figure it out.
I'm fine doing it by mail.
Yeah. I'll walk you through it and we'll figure it out today.
I trust the United States Postal Service with my life.
Oh, fucking Christ. Funny enough, the United States Postal Service, Grace has had, so how do I set this up? Fuck it. I'll just brute force it. I was learning about taxes. I was talking about these taxes to Grace. I was showing her the 1065 because it's really interesting the way that the money moves. And like now we can see firsthand, like, oh, this is the benefits of owning a business because you can decrease your taxable income.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking I can form an LLC and then do my real estate work under an LLC, just a personal sole proprietor LLC, and then write off all of my business expenses on that. So like if Grace and I, who will have her own LLC, are partnering on a real estate deal, and we're working at the bar while we're doing it, I can write that tab off as a business expense, which now comes out of my taxable income. And now I'm seeing that directly from Kahuna Cravings. And I'm thinking, well, holy fuck, you and I didn't even really do a whole lot. And I was able to write $800 off of my taxes, which brings my taxable income down from like whatever, 64,000 and change to like 63,000. But if I'm able to write off a lot of expenses, I can get my taxable income down to where I don't pay taxes.
Yeah.
Which is totally possible with the amount of shit that I'm going to be doing for real estate, which is sick.
Yeah.
So I told Grace to check her credit score just out of like pure interest. And she's like, oh, I haven't checked it because like, I don't want to check it because I'm scared. And I was like, fucking why? So she checked it and it flashed up as like, whatever, like 780. She was like, awesome. And then it like went red and changed to like 730. And she was like, what the fuck happened? Right. It turns out that her last apartment complex charged her for damages that the cats did to the carpet. But she never paid it and it went to collections. She didn't pay it because they sent one letter saying that she owed money to the new apartment complex, but did not include her unit number, which invalidates it because apartment complexes only have 30 days to notify you of an additional charge, and they have to send it to a valid address, your new valid address. They didn't try email. They didn't try phone call. They had both, and they didn't send it to a proper address. So now we have to go fight collections about it. But I talked to Tyler about this, and he told me that the way collections works is that the apartment complex sends the bill to the collection company. They pay them in full, and now they come after you to try to like make up, make themselves whole, and they'll charge you interest, right? But Tyler said that he has gone through before and just told the collections company like, hey, I owe you whatever, $500. I can only pay you $150 right now. Is that cool? And they're like, well, how long until you have the 500? And he's like, could be years. And they're like, fuck it, just pay us the 150 now. And Tyler's like, I'll only pay you the 150 if you can take this credit hit off of my credit statement. And they do. So we're going to fight it by saying it's an invalid notification. So we're not paying anything and you're going to take it off with the credit score. But I've never had to deal with collections before. So this is just interesting to me.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not like the 8th world country service that Meta has to offer. So
yeah, I'm hoping not. But that's my business and life updates for this week.
Well, at least it's the United States government, so they all speak English, okay? I fucking hate Meta customer service.
What's your life update? Have you lived any life this week? No?
Not much.
We're going to Daytona.
We are. I'm excited about that. This is I was thinking about this today. This is my first year not going to the Roar before the 24. Every single year I've gone to the Roar before the 24. I was just too busy. Busy.
I don't think I went last year to the Roar.
Yeah, I've always gone. But yes, very excited for the Rolex. I think
my dad
it'll be a lot of fun. He said yes, I think.
Okay.
I think he said yes in the group chat. Or I thought you told me yes.
No, I said I talked to him on the phone and he said that he was going to get back to you. And then you said, yeah, he's going to get back to us on Monday. And then I haven't heard back.
I think
that was last Monday.
I think he did message me, yes.
Okay, cool.
So
we should ask him if we can borrow his cooler because I don't know if Greg has a big ass cooler.
Yeah, I have one, but it's like...
I want a big hard-sided cooler to take.
I have a big hard-sided cooler, but it's sat outside for about 6 months.
Oh, fuck. Yeah. We should see if we can borrow my dad's because I know he has one. And then go from there. Anyways, I'm stoked. I'm excited for it. I'm going to try not to think about money and I'm just going to have a good time. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yep. So I'm also pumped for that. In terms of other life stuff, really not much. Just running around, doing all the changes, trying to get dropshipping going, podcast stuff later in the week, and then
cool.
Yeah.
So for podcast stuff, this needs to post in 2 days.
Yeah.
Which probably isn't.
So I'm going to deal with this tonight.
Can you do it all tonight?
I think I can.
My thinking is, should we plan to record another one before Daytona to schedule for next Tuesday so that the one we record at Daytona, we have a week to edit?
Yeah, we could talk about it when we do our tax stuff.
Sounds good.
But
Sounds good.
We'll
All
figure
right,
it out.
let's get into this.
Yeah.
So today we're talking about the difference between being fit, being fat, and being overweight. Because there is a difference between being fat and overweight, I think. So let's start by defining these three terms. I think it seems kind of obvious, but a few months ago during one of our discussions, we discovered a very important subtlety between the difference between being fat and being overweight. So with that in mind, I think it's a good idea that we detail what our idea of fit, fat, and overweight is. So I'll start with mine because I have something written down. You can bounce off of it. So for being fit, I have being physically capable to perform daily tasks with ease and challenging physical tasks with concentrated effort, right? Generally, you have a body fat percentage of less than 30%. You're generally muscular. You're capable of lifting weight heavier than yourself comfortably. And you generally have a cardiovascular capability, VO2 max, that matches your age, right? So the VO2 max is milliliters per kilogram per minute of oxygen that your body can process during strenuous exercise. So the lower the number is, the less oxygen you can convert while exercising, the higher the more, so the higher the better. And that changes as you age.
Got it.
Then my definition for being fat is that you physically struggle with daily tasks and you're completely incapable of performing challenging physical tasks. Generally, this comes along with a body fat percentage over 30%. You're incapable of lifting weight heavier than yourself, and generally cardiovascularly lower than their age average. But in addition to that, and this is the difference between fat and overweight, you're in denial that your physical state is negatively impacting your health. You're in denial that your physical state is not desirable by others, and you're in denial that, and you're focusing on body positivity while ignoring your health problems. And then I wrote, you're a 6-piece chicken McNobody as well. And then the difference between being fat and overweight, you have all the physical characteristics of someone who's fat, but you acknowledge your physical state is negatively impacting your health. You acknowledge that it's not desirable, and you focus on body positivity while focusing on effort to improve their health.
Yeah.
Those are the three differences that I have.
I like that outline. Your fit outline would be very similar to mine. The fat outline, I'd also put an emphasis on, not only are they in denial about it in themselves, they also push others to believe that it is genuinely good. So it's not just like an internal denial of how they are. It's also like, and you should think my way too.
Yeah.
And if you think differently, then you're a piece of shit, right? And then I think on top of that, there's also like, there is certain things that like I just deem as fat shit. You know what I mean? Like if you're walking down the street and you like smell a certain burger and they're like, oh, that's a Burger King burger, I gotta get it. Like that's fat shit. Like fucking what the fuck, right? Like, right?
Okay.
But it's just like, it's a mental attitude of like, I need to constantly feed myself, but like I'm also great, and like fuck you for hating on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the
right?
denial, right? It's
Yeah.
Self-absorbedness.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think what bothers me about that, about like getting other people looped into it, is the same reason that the gays have like a really negative connotation to them still. And it's because it's not like the old age gay was like, I'm gay, leave me alone about it. And then some of the new age gay, like the alphabet community, right? Dude, there's a guy I watch. His name is Amir Odom. Have you heard of him?
No.
He's a black, gay, 24-year-old who voted for Trump, and he's a Republican.
Okay.
And he makes a lot of TikToks talking about like social events and talking about like, okay, well, why is it okay to be gay and like pro LGBTQ, but like also not approve of drag queens talking to first graders, right? He's like very logical about it. But he makes a great point about this, which is that you can be gay and not fucking drag other people into it, right? Like you can be gay and not ask a guy like, well, how do you know you're not gay? You've never kissed a guy before. Maybe suck a dick to know you're not gay. Like it's almost encouraging someone to try it because you're into it. So
if I said that to someone gay, I'd get ripped apart for that.
Have you ever cheated? Like,
if I like came up to someone who was gay and I was like, you should try to fuck a woman and see it here straight, right? Like that would
you'd be persecuted.
Right, exactly.
And so when fat people go up to other fat people and they're like, you know, yes, queen, right? That's not recognizing that there's a problem or being constructive about it. It's not saying like, oh, I can tell that you've lost weight. I can tell it's gains. It's like, yeah, get the 10-piece, not the 6-piece because you deserve it. Right? It's like encouraging other people to be more like it. Or like skinny people to be like, oh, you're so skinny, like have a piece of cheesecake with me, right? It's like the fucking devil on your shoulder, right?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of sounds like fat people are the devil. They're not. Not all fat people are this way, but like we're talking about.
Well, fat and overweight are different.
Fat people are that way. You're right. All fat people, by our definition, are that way.
Right.
Because if you're not that way, you're overweight. We'll get that later.
Yeah.
But keep talking about your definitions.
And for overweight, I'd say it's just someone who's on the larger end, but recognizes the fact that they're a larger person, right? Yep. For example, I had a friend a while back, and he was a big dude, 350, 400 pounds, and he was about my height. Mm-hmm. But it was like, we joke around. He had a Honda Fit at the time. He really liked small cars, which is funny. Small little Japanese cars. Got it. So he liked the Miata Y. He had a Honda Fit. He had a Subaru. Now he has a Hyundai Kona N. So like he's been on this stuff, but he's the kind of guy who's like I remember he rolled up one day. We were all hanging out. It was him and a couple other friends of mine at the time, and we were all hanging out. And he rolled up and he was like, "Man, like I'm just chewing my tires up on the left front." And like no one said anything, and I was like, "That's because you sit at the left front." Well, because he just installed new coilovers, and so he was like, "I got him all tweaked up, and like everything's good, but the left front keeps rubbing." I was like, "That's because you sit there," and like
somebody right turns in this.
And like I didn't think anything of it, you know what I mean? Like to me, it was just like you're big, and that's logically where it's gonna rub because that's where the weight's at. You know what I mean? But it was just like all good games. You know what I mean? There was no like, why would you say that, right? There was no like denial of physics and being like, my weight wouldn't cause that, right? Well, it's like, if you put 300 pounds on a corner of a car, it's gonna be a little bit lower on that corner of the car.
When you buy your airplane ticket, when you get to, ever switch what seat you sit in? Do they ever adjust the center of mass of the plane? Yeah, it's
right. So it's just like fun and games, and like he knows he's a big dude, and it's like obvious, and it's cool. Yeah, you know what I mean? And then I've met other people who are like, I don't interact with them because I think my interactions would go poorly with them. Probably. But I hear them talking with other people, and they're like, some girl who's genuinely like pretty and fit will be talking to someone who's like genuinely doesn't care about their physique or how they look. Yeah. And she'll be like, "Oh, you're such a beautiful queen. Like blah 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 blah. Like this would look so good on you, and this and that." And I'm like,
"You thinking the skinny girl is
yeah, the skinny girl would tell a fat girl that." I've heard that so many times.
Yeah,
and like it's like you're denying the person who's fat the opportunity to actually get their life in order because you're encouraging their denial.
Yeah.
And then B, it's just not reality. Mm-hmm. Like it's just not. Like if the best piece of clothing that would look good on you is a treadmill. Like that's what would look good. Like lose some weight. You know what I mean?
That's an interesting scenario. Are you familiar with the term duff?
No.
Duff, D-U-F-F, is your dumb, ugly, fat friend. And every group of girls has one, and they keep it around to artificially inflate their own ego.
On TikTok,
right?
Yeah.
So it's like in every group of girls, they'll have one ugly one around to make themselves look prettier by comparison. Because like if you're drunk and you're looking at a group of girls and they're all like pretty attractive, you kind of view them all on a similar plane. But if there's 4 girls and one of them's butt ugly, you're like, okay, now I have to consider what I'm doing here, right? One one's the hottest, the brunette's second, and then there's the thing. So it's funny that you mentioned like a skinny girl would tell her fat friend to.
But I would be willing to bet you money that group of 5 girls, the girls who are pretty don't tell.
That's what I'm saying. Overweight they need to keep her that way so that they can keep their value.
Right. Like how fucked is that?
It's super fun, right?
Yeah.
But also I was telling Grace about this podcast topic yesterday, and she was like, it's interesting because the fat people don't like to be called fat. Which is weird because black people don't mind being called black. Blondes don't mind being called blondes, right? White fat people hate being called black, right? And it's because they have a choice about it, right? You can't help being black. You can't help being blonde. You can't help being gay, but you can help being fat. And fat is starting to seem like a slur or like a derogatory term. And the whole reason I want to do this podcast is because I want it to be a derogatory term. Right?
Yeah, I want people to get in shape.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why. Exactly. But she said it's so interesting that people are offended by it because in the deaf community, you don't have slang for stuff. You literally verbally describe things the exact way it is, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about what politically correctness would be like a larger person or a big, beautiful woman, right? If you say that, a deaf person is going to not really get the picture. You have to say they have a lot of fat on their body. They're a large person, big fat, right?
Yeah.
And Like, because to a deaf person, a large person could be bulky, it could be tall, it could be muscular, or it could be fat. They don't know. So you have to use the deaf word for fat so that you can get the point across to them. And that's descriptive. They're not offended by that. It's not a problem. Fat deaf people aren't upset about that, right? Because it's a descriptor.
Yeah. Interesting.
But I thought that was really interesting. An interesting perspective that I hadn't considered, because I see the world more so how deaf people do, right? Because when I rode in high school, they say never ask a woman her weight. Right? One of the first 3 questions you ask people when you're rowing is, what's your 2K? How tall are you? And how much do you weigh?
Yeah.
Right? And that's common across men's teams, women's teams, adult, youth, everyone. You ask everyone how much they weigh because it is directly tied to how fast they go. Right? And so when I stopped rowing or would talk to people outside the rowing community, one of my first questions getting to know someone would be, how much do you weigh? And that would always be met with like a little bit of like, well, why are you asking that? And then I would go, well, if you're ever in a race against me, I want to know how fast you would go, right? Like if we raced together, what would it be like? And that was seen as offensive by some people too. And I don't understand it, because to me, it's just like, if you don't like it, change it, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a Hormozy principle is, if someone says something about you and you're offended, like hold up.
The videos of, you've seen the guys go out there and be like, ask a bunch of girls like if height matters.
Yeah.
And they'll throw the scale on the ground and they'll be like, weight matters too.
Oh,
right?
Fuck, dude. Yeah.
And it's so like the girls will go up in arms about it and be like, right? But like the funniest fucking thing about that is like
You can't
change your height, but you can change how much you weigh.
Sure can.
Right?
Sure can. Yeah.
And it's like, that's really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a double-sided coin.
Yeah. But I'm looking at the other segments we got here.
Let's move on.
And
Because that was the definitions.
yeah, I'm good with the
way.
definitions.
Cool. So we have our definitions defined now. So we're all talking on the same page. And I fully anticipate that I love this topic because it's like a snapshot in time, right? So in 20 years, when we go back and look at this, Ozempic's going to be totally different. The body standard, the beauty norms are going to be different. And so I just want to reemphasize to ourselves in the future that it's important to define everything that we talk about, because it's going to change in the future. So right now there's a health epidemic in the United States. Everybody is obese. Everybody is overweight. But segment 2 talks about the problems with being fat or overweight and which is better. And the epiphany that we had, which we haven't talked directly or expressly about yet, is that I don't mind people who weigh a lot, because the commonality between fat people and overweight people is they have a lot of fat on their body. They are overweight. They are large.
Yeah.
They are big people, right? I don't have problems with a lot of big people that I know. And it's largely because the people who I keep around me in my orbit are people who I like their personalities of, right? And generally speaking, the personalities that I like are ones oriented towards personal growth or like just being good people, right? And I don't like calling them fat because I feel like it's an insult and a slur when I don't feel that they deserve it, because they recognize they have a problem. They recognize they're struggling to fix it. They want to fix it and they're not happy with where they're at. And if they're in that state, I don't want to insult them on top of that. I don't want to kick someone while they're down. I want to lift them up. And so I don't want to call them fat. So what do I want to call them? Well, we have the idea to call them overweight.
Yeah.
Because overweight is a technical term that your doctor would use to describe your physical condition. And calling someone fat is more of an insult. So the difference between fat people and overweight people is your recognition of the problem. You don't even have to be working towards it to get better. You could just say, I don't like how I look. I know I'm gross. I want to change it, but I'm addicted to mac and cheese and I can't stop eating it, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. You're overweight. You'll figure it out eventually. But if you're like a fucking, airlines should start making wider seats. Fuck you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's our difference between fat people and overweight people.
Yeah, and it's a lot about the character. Like when I had that friend that was overweight, big dude, it was like, it was all fun and games. You know what I mean? There wasn't like
hate.
There wasn't like hate towards one another.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or there wasn't denial of reality towards one another.
Right.
And so I appreciated that a lot. And I honestly, like, I think it is so genuinely wild that there are groups of girls out there, or girls that I've overheard talking to one another, that like completely push into the idea that like any weight is beautiful and like you can be any weight and healthy. And that's just like not fundamentally true. Like if you are
false.
400 pounds, 5'2", you are, unless you have a redonkulous amount of muscle on you and you are like the biggest person or the biggest woman in U.S. history, right? For an example.
Like a power lifter. Lots of muscle, lots of fat.
Like you're not going to be healthy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and even then, at a certain point, too much muscle on you becomes unhealthy too.
Yeah, true. A lot of powerlifters struggle with long-term health issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like, I just think the denial that like it doesn't do anyone any good. You know what I mean? Other than it, like in the moment feeling better. But if reality doesn't reflect how you feel, then like what is the long-term benefit?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're not going to live as long. You're going to be less healthy. You're going to eat like shit. Like if you're interested in having kids, like that's going to be an issue for you. If you're interested in finding a good partner, that's going to have an issue for you because good partners want someone who cares about themselves and doesn't live in denial. And if you're going to live in denial, then that's not an attractive quality.
Yep.
Like there's a whole bunch of things that go under that. And it's like the price you pay is to just like feel a little bit better about yourself when your friends talk to you. Like that's the
dude. One of my coworkers, she's like, no kidding, like 4'6". Like she's very short, right? But she for sure definitely weighs more than me.
Yeah.
She's probably like 250 pounds, and she's very short, very wide, so unhealthy. She shows up every morning with Chick-fil-A, and it's painful to watch because every New Year's she has the New Year's resolution of starting to lift. And she's been waiting on a new gym to open because she doesn't like Planet Fitness because they let pedos into the men into the women's bathrooms, but that's its own topic. She doesn't like Crunch because there's too many people and she can't ever get the machine that she wants. And now there's Wolf's Fitness is opening up in Palm Bay, which is like a bodybuilding gym. And she's like, I'm really excited because it's like a bodybuilding community. And that's the community that I'm a part of. And I was like, what? You're building a lot of body, but like, it's not the one that you want. And she was like, I want to be a part of the powerlifting community. And I was like, okay, I respect that. Now I'm starting to look at you as overweight instead of fat because you want to do something about it, right? Haven't seen it happen in the past. You've talked about it a lot, but nothing's actually happened. There's Chick-fil-A sitting on your desk right now, but maybe it's a Diet Coke at 9 a.m. Who knows? But she says that she's enrolling in this gym and she went and did a tour of it and she really likes it and she's excited about it. And so like, I'm hoping for the best because up until this point, I've heard a lot about trying to change and then I've seen it not change. And what sucks is that when I met her in the middle part of 2023, she had just had a miscarriage. And at the time, I was like, well, it's obvious to me because you have a body fat percentage of like over 50%. You're enormous. Like, of course, your body can't sustain itself, let alone another body, right? No wonder you didn't give birth. I'm glad you didn't because it might have had health defects if you had the kid and he can't, like, the kid wouldn't have earned that, they didn't do anything wrong. But in the years since then, they're still trying to have a kid and it just hasn't been working and they don't know why. And I'm looking around the room like, am I the only person who knows why? Is it not obvious, right? Like, if you're not in good health, don't have another being,
Yeah.
And if you can't see that,
you can't.
Yeah. If you can't see that your weight is negatively impacting like your bodily function of having another baby, then
yeah, that's a whole nother psychological topic because like if you are like that to yourself, what values are going to pass along to your kid?
Yeah.
That's wild to think about too.
Exactly. Well, and I had this talk with my dad the other week, because growing up, I was always encouraged to do sports, right? I was encouraged to do athletics. And now it's become such a part of my life that I can never imagine not working out. But my parents, for as long as I can remember, haven't worked out. My dad used to have like a P90X set like in the office at home so that he would do like night workouts. He'd go on runs at night. I remember those. I think we went on runs together every once in a while when I was younger, but I didn't like running, so I never did it much. I remember he taught me how to do bicep curls with proper form with like the P90X dumbbells. And my mom would shit on him all the time for it because she was like, he never uses that. It costs a bunch of money and like he's never going to use it. And but like I didn't really think anything of it. But as I've gotten older, they don't work out at all anymore. They don't do any exercise, right? My mom like goes for walks at the park and says it's exercise, but it's not. It's like you're maybe at a 135 heart rate for like an hour. That's not strenuous exercise, right? You have a higher body fat percentage, you have a low muscle mass. Like that's statistically, right? Not fit. Maybe not overweight, but not fit.
Yeah.
But I was talking to my dad about it because I was like, it's so interesting to me that physical fitness and working out is not on your priority list, either of my parents. But my brother and I absolutely love that community and that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And like, I will never let it go. And he was like, well, when we were your age, we were all about it. Like we would go to the gym together and we really enjoyed it. I went on night runs, you might remember, et cetera. And I was like, I do remember that. And he said, yeah, it just changed. Like you get older, you have kids and it just falls off your priority order. And like, it's just not important to you anymore. And I thought about it and I was like, that's so interesting because it will never leave me. It will never leave me. I can't. I think it's so fundamentally ingrained in me that it'll never go away. And it's funny because my dad grew up chubby. And I think I grew up chubby too. I've been told otherwise by people in my life, but I felt chubby growing up. I definitely wasn't like physically fit. I couldn't run miles or anything when I was like really young. But my dad grew up kind of similar, not super athletic, not super chubby. We found sports in high school. And then I took it to college, and I don't think he did. He did ROTC in college, but not the same level, right? But then like it's sticking with me past then, and it didn't stick with them. So generationally, it's interesting to watch it be passed down or not. I didn't have fat parents, but now I'm wondering, like, what do fat parents teach their kids to be fat? There's a guy who goes to, you know what? This is a great topic. There's a guy that goes to the kava bars that we go to. We'll call him Thailand because that's his name, but he's overweight, and his kid is also overweight. Grace was talking about him the other day. She was like, oh, like, Thailand brought his kid in, and I was like, who, Kung Fu Panda? So that's what he looks like. But like, his mom, what's his mom's name? She used to work at Kraken. I can't remember.
Amy?
I don't know. I think she's overweight too. I haven't met her, but I've heard about it, right? But it's like fucking that poor kid, because he's gonna grow up with health problems, being told that he's okay, and then by the time he's 20, and he's gonna be a high risk for heart failure.
Well, because the kid is adopting whatever the parents are throwing his way.
Dude, kids are a reflection of everyone around them.
Right.
Right.
And if the parents are in denial about it, or don't really care about it, or like, yeah, you're fine, then the kid's gonna grow up the same way too.
Yeah, and that's a shame to see, because like he's going to grow up to have health problems, and it's not even going to be his fault, because like the kid doesn't know. Kids don't know. It's up to the parents. So
100%.
Yeah, man. Generally speaking, though, I have written here, I love the gym because it's a safe space for everybody. Like, everybody who's in the gym is there to improve themselves. And I have a huge amount of respect for that. Even if you're fucking sitting on the machine for 20 minutes on your phone, so long as you do a set, like, you're there to get better. Yeah, I might ask you to move because I'm going to do more than you, but you don't not have a right to be there, right? I don't think anybody at the gym should be laughed at or like taken photos of or anything, because I want everybody to be excited about going to the gym to improve themselves. And I feel that fat people are encouraging overweight people to cope with their state by denying it, right? Because lying to yourself is easier than tying your shoes if you can reach them and going to the gym. But no one puts the effort of getting dressed for the gym and driving all the way out there and doing a warm-up set and then starting to exercise without having the full intention of bettering themselves. And I feel like people should be like put on a pedestal for that instead of like, knocked down.
Yeah, we should try to, for the people who are fat, try to bring them up rather than tell them they're okay where they're at.
Right. Okay, this is going to be a hard cut into the episode. We have to stop the camera every 30 minutes because it's just how big a file size we can use. But I went to the bathroom real quick, and while I was there, I checked my phone. TikTok is back as of like 20 minutes ago. It says, I'll read you the thing. So last night, if you tried to open the TikTok app, there was a notification that popped up that said, man, I thought I was going to be able to pull this up faster while I was typing it in. We regret that the U.S. is banning TikTok and will take effect on January 19th and force us to make our services temporarily unavailable. We're working to restore our service in the U.S. as soon as possible, and we appreciate your support. Please stay tuned. This was last night at 9:30. Today, as of 3:30, I'm checking my phone. Welcome back. Thanks for your patience and support. As a result of President Trump's effort, TikTok is back in the US. You can continue to create, share, and discover all the things you love on TikTok. Now, I don't know what exactly is happening here. If Trump just like walked everything back, I'd be disgusted because A, the Supreme Court ruled on it. B, we're talking China here, and that's a fucking big, big problem that people aren't recognizing. But, I don't know.
I wonder if there was some negotiation. I wonder if the ban was there to be like, hey, we will really do this. And then TikTok was like, oh shit, they did it. And then President Trump was like, well, we can bring it back, but under these conditions.
I don't know, because Joe Biden said that essentially they were saying, TikTok, you have to take your shit down or we're going to fine you really heavy. And then Joe Biden was like, well, actually, I'm not going to fine him at all. So like TikTok, keep running until it's Trump's administration's problem. And then Trump was like, we can walk it all back. But via executive order. But like, you can't just executive order away a Supreme Court ruling. You know what I mean? So I don't know what actually happened yet. But under that same umbrella, it looks like also CapCut was disabled along with TikTok. But we use CapCut to edit the podcast.
And I use CapCut for dropshipping, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if that's back with TikTok or not. But we were just in the break, we were talking about Mark Zuckerberg going on Joe Rogan and how he's a slimy piece of shit.
Yeah, person. Fucking... Yeah, I think you can watch that podcast. One of the most interesting parts of that podcast for me was about an hour and a half in. Mark Zuckerberg was like, he was talking about long form podcasts. And he's talking about how this is a different type of media and it's really changed from like radio to TV to long form podcasts, blah, blah, blah. He's talking about that. And he said, it was interesting because he couldn't quite find the words for it. Because like the first hour you prep for. So like the first hour is like, it is what it is. But like hours 2 and 3, you know, you really start to dig into kind of like what you think on the fly. Right. And he said something like, you know, it's interesting because as we're talking here, I think about like, I try to like pull from my memory, like what I'm going to say. And like, he said that. And I was like, that was a big fuck up in my opinion. Because it's like, if you're going on Joe Rogan and you're going to be like, I'm pulling from my memory on what to say, it implies that you went through a routine of what you want to say, which implies you did this with preparation to meet a certain goal. Right. And that completely, in my opinion, or a lot of it at least, wipes away from the authenticity of his interview.
Oh, for sure.
Right. And it's like on top of that too, like I think even if he hadn't have said that, people would have like picked up on it or just not bought it. Right. But it's like having that aspect of it and having that little taste of like, I did prepare what I wanted to say on this. Really puts a big damper on the authenticity of that interview.
When I saw that Joe Rogan, the newest Rogan, was with Mark Zuckerberg, it was like fucking 3 days after Facebook announced the removal of the DEI initiatives and stuff. I was like, oh, he's coming on to talk about that. And sure as shit, in the first 15 minutes, they start talking about that. And I was like, oh, this is like a press conference thing that like Rogan's holding for him to talk about, right? He's been on Rogan before, but this is for sure set up so that he can respond to these claims, right? And like kind of answer for himself of like, well, why have you been censoring people for the past 4 years, right? And like, why is it okay for you to start walking it back now, you know?
And it's like, it's funny too, because like when he was talking about the censorship, one of the things he said was like, initially our censorship started out with like just trying to censor people with like clearly false information. Like if you say the earth is flat. That was the example he used. That's not my example. He said that. And I was like, why are you fucking censoring anything that is not strictly illegal? If someone wants to say the earth is flat on fucking Facebook, fucking let them. Why does it fucking matter?
You know what's crazy?
Why does it matter? Like, unless someone is there to prostitute people or traffic children.
That happens.
Those are the problems you have, but those are illegal issues. Those are things that legally are not allowed, right? Someone could say the earth is flat. Why are you even in the first place trying to censor that shit, right? Like that's the example he used for the justification of why they initially started censoring stuff. To be like, oh, like we just started with like simple shit, like simple stuff that people would, know is not true, right? But it's like, if everyone knows it's not true, why are you censoring it in the first place? A, and then B, it's like, what is the problem with someone saying the earth is flat? Like, why do you fucking care that much?
Have you seen the cartwheel trend on Instagram Reels?
No.
You know I love the deaths and injuries on Instagram Reels, right?
Yeah.
Which should be censored. Not
should be.
The fucking earth is flat.
Right.
There's a new trend where girls will wear like loose-fitting tops and then they'll do a cartwheel and their pants fall out.
Got it.
It's awesome. But like, why not censor that stuff? Why censor the earth is flat shit? It's fucking retarded.
Yeah.
But the whole reason he went on there,
the cartwheels make some money. The earth is flat just gives them a bad rap.
Yeah. I don't fucking, it sucks to see, especially because he almost had me for a second. As I was listening to him talk, I put myself in his shoes and I was like, okay, if the government is stepping in and trying to push me in one direction or the other, and like I start to put up a little resistance and then they threaten like huge investigations and like fines and stuff, like I can almost understand being put under that pressure. But when I think about what my response would be in that moment, it's like, well, there are other platforms that are standing up to this shit. And Facebook is a major, major platform, right? YouTube is succumbing to it, censoring people like Steven Crowder. I mean, the fucking news media is censoring it, right? Like Twitter was censoring everything.
Look at those long-term ramifications of any organization that is deeply censored.
Right.
Like the views on MSNBC or CNN, like in the tank. In the tank. Like look at the long-term ramifications. And like I understand that hindsight is always 20/20. But like at the same time, there were enough smart people out there to know that this is a really bad path to go down.
Right.
And someone in Mark Zuckerberg's shoes, like, you have the connections to be able to talk with those people.
Yeah. The problem is, and I recognize this were a lot of topics they talked about, Mark Zuckerberg seemed to be like aware of the topic, but not like in tune with it.
Yeah. And like, it was interesting because it was a lot of like traditional right-leaning stuff, like guns or hunting
Yeah.
or like shit like that, where it's like the only thing I thought that he was like genuinely kind of into was jujitsu. But like in terms of like the hunting stuff, like it almost seemed like more of a play to kind of appeal to that crowd than a genuine interest in an investment in that field.
Even in jujitsu, like you can tell when you're a professional in something, like when you talk to someone about karting, you can tell when someone's interested, but they've been doing it for less than 5 years. And you can tell when someone's interested and they've lived and breathed it their entire life.
Right.
And Mark Zuckerberg spoke with a level of interest that exceeded his level of experience, I think. I feel that. I feel that when you're newer at something, you should be very cognizant of your shortcomings. So like, I think he with jujitsu is where I'm at with racing, which is I've been doing it seriously for a couple years. But as far as seat time go, I've never been in a race car. I've never been in a shifter car. I've only done sim work, and even that is really weak. Like I know the fundamentals, but I'm not good at anything yet, right? And I didn't hear him admit to any of that stuff or like admit to like getting pinned down or anything like this.
It feels inauthentic. Yeah.
It feels unauthentic. It feels like, and even with the hunting stuff, he was like, oh yeah, well, we have a ranch and we have to kill the pigs because it like, helps the population or whatever. I understand the lizard person accusations because it sounds almost like you're familiar with it, but not really. It's like you read like a 1-paragraph summary of the topic and you're trying to leverage an entire conversation on it. You don't actually know what you're talking about.
I think a lot of it comes down to that, like,
He's a lizard.
well, I'm kidding. But he's just kind of like a nerd that had a really good idea that he worked super, super hard on to make big.
Yeah.
And now he's stuck in this position and he doesn't have the foundation to understand what to do and why.
Yeah. I also think that his level of expertise is different from like Joe Rogan's level of expertise is like comedy and bow hunting, right? And Mark Zuckerberg's is in like data analytics and software. Those two don't fucking combine. So they're trying to meet in the middle, which is this censorship thing. Well, fuck, we don't want to talk about that for too long because I'm going to get flamed for it, right? So like, you know what? I was bow hunting once. Maybe I'll talk to Joe about that. So Joe was like, what brand is your bow? And he was like,
yep.
I don't know. Like, yeah, I think he was just trying to relate to Joe more than Joe would relate to him. I'd really love
because he was trying to appeal to Joe's audience.
Exactly.
That's why he went on there.
He was trying to appeal to Joe's audience, but also Joe can't appeal to the stuff that Mark Zuckerberg knows because it's out of his fucking pay range. Like Mark Zuckerberg can't talk about software shit. Like you and I would have to really like dump. Like we can't walk Joe through PDE. You know what I mean?
At the same time, though, there's been a lot of people on Joe Rogan, like physicists and astrologists and whatever that like are out of Joe Rogan's expertise that have a really great podcast that's authentic that Joe Rogan asks great questions about.
Right.
Which leads me to believe why I think it's more of just a play to get the audience and on Mark Zuckerberg's end.
I don't think it's a play because he does this in every interview he does. I think that Mark Zuckerberg is so deep in the weeds on like the PDE level style of stuff that he can't dumb it down for a conversation with somebody. But I think the other physicists and stuff can. I think that they're still like grounded in reality and like can convey their topics to somebody who's a novice to the idea and have a conversation about it. But I think that Mark Zuckerberg is so in the weeds, A, because a lot of his stuff is proprietary, so he can't actually talk about it, but B, also because he would have to explain everything that's going on to you and then explain why that explanation is important to talk about what he wants to actually talk about. And he's not good at doing that because every day he deals with professionals who are on that level already, right? So like the physicist guy, well, what's his the idea about the like flower of life or whatever, right?
I don't remember.
He's not a physicist, but he just likes reading about it, right? So he talks to regular people every day about this cool physics stuff that he knows. So he's the middleman, right? But Mark Zuckerberg talks to engineers about engineering shit every day, to engineers about the engineering, and never has to talk to anybody in the real world, which I feel is why he feels so disconnected from like the planet everyone else lives on.
Yeah.
And like that's why he feels like a lizard person, because he can't explain what's happening to us at this level. But yeah, a lot of it seemed like a cop out in that podcast. It felt like the reason he did the podcast was to kind of cop out some shit that was there for years. Just pass the blame off to the government. Be like, well, I was intimidated, so I did it, but now I'm not anymore because of Trump, so I'm backing out of it. Which, maybe it's legitimate, but also, fucking Musk wasn't afraid of that shit.
Yeah, it's very fair.
Stone up. Anyways, back to the fats. Back to the fats. Being overweight is less desirable than being fit, but it's bounds better than being fat. And I'll make the argument, hot take, I think it's actually more difficult to transition from being fat to being overweight than it is from being overweight to fit.
I would agree, because I think that the mental perspective transition is harder.
Yeah.
I think it's harder to completely rewire your brain than it is to like just get yourself to go to the gym 3 times a week.
Yep. I agree.
You know, like it's because the fat mentality bleeds into other aspects of your life too. It's not just like you're in denial about your weight. It's a reflection of how you process information that gets thrown at you every day.
Right.
You know, because you clearly have a disconnect between what is reality and what you think is reality.
Right.
And that just isn't going to be in its solo box to how heavy you are. It's
Right.
going to transition into your perspectives about politics, or your perspectives about life and your trajectory, and your perspectives about your family,
Right.
or other people around you in your community, right? And so I would agree with that. I think the mental transition's a lot harder.
Yeah. I think it's also being fat. There's an interesting common thread between being fat and being fit, which is if you are doing it because you care about how you're perceived by other people, right? So being overweight is I care about what I look like to other people, and I need to make sure that they know that it's okay for me to look like this. And fit people are I want other people to like the way that I look, right? You can becoming independent of what other people's judgment of you is most indicative of success. So to rephrase that in English, it's if I don't care what someone thinks about me, I'm either going to become really fat or really fit or stay the same, but it's dependent on what I want. So if I don't care what other people think, I might be a fat slob, and then I don't care what other people think. And likewise, if I want to be really fit, I might get really fit, but not really care what other people see about me. I might wear a pump cover all the time so that no one else can see my physique, because that's what regular people do. Like regular average people wear jackets, and I'm going to wear a jacket because like I don't, want to be a piece of meat for everyone to see, Similarly, like overweight people might wear a lot of clothes so that they don't see their body, right? But I think that making the transition from caring what other people think about you to just caring about what you think about you is more difficult than actually executing on it. And executing on it is hard, right? But I don't think it's as hard as changing your entire worldview.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you know any fat people?
I think I've pushed most of them out of my life. I don't really talk to people like that because, like you said, it's a mental shift, and it's not a mental shift that I am willing to be aligned with.
Mhm.
You know, like I when I say mental shift, like it's a mental shift for me to communicate with that kind of person effectively,
Right.
because it's not just the fact that they have a crazy perspective about their health. It's also the fact that they have a crazy perspective of how they analyze reality around them, and so it's just like I just don't click with those kinds of people.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some overweight people for sure.
Yeah.
But in terms of fat people, like you know, I it's the mental thing more than anything for me, because if it wasn't a mental thing, then they'd just be overweight. But
Exactly.
because they have the mental aspect to them of the denial and the lack of self-reflection, that is what I don't vibe with. And you can find that in anyone. You could find that lack of self-reflection in someone who is skinnier, or, is, from another country or whatever. Like, it's just a mental thing for me,
Right.
more than anything else. And it just happens, well, in our conversation today, it just happens to be linked to weight.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the being fat is a mental illness. And I think it's the same mental illness as being trans or gay or fucking homophobic, or the flavor of Islam that wants death to America or whatever else. It's just being closed-minded to the reality around you. I think that's what it is. It's the same mental dysphoria.
Yeah. In each one of those groups, there is a subset that is completely
Yeah.
disconnected from reality.
Yep.
And that's what I have the issue with.
Yeah. It's the mental dysphoria, not the actual state of being.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's like it's a similar thing with, I've had plenty of conversations with people over the years about the illegal migrant crisis. And it's like, yes, there are some good people.
Mhm.
But it is also hard to deny the statistics that say when there is a higher proportion of illegal migrants in a certain city, crime goes up. That's a pretty direct correlation.
Yeah.
And it's just, I didn't make it that way. I'm just looking at what reality is. I don't hate those people. I just think we need to have a system that takes care of that problem, because it's not right for a group of citizens to suffer because the border isn't secure, right? That's a political discussion, but essentially what I'm trying to get at is like there are just certain things that are pretty well set in fact.
Yeah.
And unless you have a multitude of facts to show me the other side of it, I'm going to go with the multitude of facts that I've accumulated over the years of looking at the issue.
Right.
Right. And that's I agree with the mental side of things. I think I've only really clicked well with people who see the reality for what it is.
Yeah. And the migrant crisis is a really good example of it, because oftentimes you want to look at it in extremes, right? Where it's like, when I consider the migrant crisis, my very number one top concern is that it's a free, open gateway to let terrorists into the country. And it happens, and they know it happens, right? And so that's my number one concern. But people on the other side of the aisle, their number one concern will be like, well, these people need help and we need to help them. And you can't look at all one side or the other, like Sith deal in absolutes, that type of thing. It's like, we want to help people that need help, and we want to keep out people that we should keep out. And there's one answer to that, which is just to have a filter. And you can't go with or without a filter. Like there must be a filter, and it must be a good filter. Yep. But similarly with fat people, when they hear someone say that they're fat, they just hear the judgment and they just hear the negativity. And, sometimes people do call people fat with the intention of just being negative, right? But when they perceive themselves as that, they just see it. And it's better to just block it out and ignore it than it is to actually do something about it.
Yeah.
And just blocking out and ignoring problems is not indicative of self-growth.
100%.
And that I think neither of us can really resonate with.
Yeah. I mean, we have a podcast where we talk about topics regarding self-growth every single week.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I love about this podcast is it's like if people if I'm ever hit with something like, what makes you think that you're so well balanced? It's like, well, I spend on average like 5 hours a week thinking about it.
Right? Yeah, thinking and doing,
Yeah, it's a stack of evidence of the fact that I'm self-reflective of what I'm thinking about, right?
Right.
And then, on the days that I go back and rewatch episodes to see how I felt a year or 2 years or 3 years ago, same thing.
100%.
I can go back and see how I've changed, right? But so our third segment here is on our take on fitness when compared to being fat or overweight. And so I've got a little write-up here. I think I'm biased because my parents encouraged me to participate in sports growing up, and I obviously found athletics in high school and took that into college. I'm passionate about fitness because it's what I know, it's what I'm comfortable with, and it's what turns me on when I see it in other people. In addition to that, it's also an indicator of life longevity, and I'd like to live for a long time. See more about that in our episode 43. Sure. With that said, I have a huge amount of respect for overweight people when compared to fat and even some fit people. Your current position is completely irrelevant if you aren't moving in the right direction. Compare this to differential equations. A derivative is the instantaneous rate of change, right? So velocity is the derivative of acceleration. Positive acceleration means you're moving up in velocity, and negative acceleration is less velocity. You're moving slower. I don't give a fuck how fast you're going, what your velocity is. I just want to see you step on the gas. You can be 500 pounds, but if you're continuing to count calories and doing sit-ups in your trough every day, I'm rooting for you.
Yeah.
Likewise, if you're really fit, but not putting in any energy and you're just naturally gorgeous, I have less respect for you than someone who's trying harder and is less physically fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my take on it.
I think it's always a positive sign when I see someone who cares about their health or cares about their direction.
Yeah.
I think I actually, it's interesting. This is kind of like a divergence, but in a similar light. I saw an Andrew Tate podcast the other day where he was talking about why certain women will go for guys that don't have anything yet, and they'll leave guys who do have a lot of wealth to go with those guys that don't have anything yet. And he was saying, he was like, I think there's a certain aspect of someone who doesn't have it yet, but is doing everything they can.
Yeah.
That's very attractive. And there's a certain aspect of someone who has everything and doesn't care to do anything else. That's unattractive.
Right.
Right.
It's
right. I think that ties in well with this fit versus fat overweight conversation too, is like, I think just driven people overall are better people. Like I want everyone to have the opportunity to build the best version of themselves.
Right.
And if you have the opportunity and you're not taking it, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
Right. And so, that's why I push a lot for people having the opportunity to grow. Like, that's why I had a friend reach out to me about dropshipping stuff that they're interested in getting into. And I sent them like $3,000 worth of shit that I've paid for, between when we first tried it a year and a half ago and more recently. And I was like, here you go. Because it's like, I want you to have the opportunity,
Right.
but it's on you to take it. And if you don't take it and you don't make anything of it, then I have a lot less respect for you, because this is good information. And I know it's good information.
Right.
Right.
I'll only help you if you're willing to help yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's a certain aspect of like people who are really driven and motivated, that's just generally more attractive.
Yeah.
And I think that's also, this actually does, I'm diverting this because I don't have a sheet to guide me and my mind wanders. But
Cool.
I think there's an aspect to this in the dating scene beyond what I mentioned, a few minutes ago, is like, there's a lot of ideal in the dating community from women, especially, of wanting a man who's free all the time, or wanting a guy who's available to go on big trips, or wanting a guy who's free flowing, or who's like, just doing life as is, right? But you don't see a lot of women long-term happy with that kind of person. At least I personally don't. I see a lot more women long-term happy with someone who is driven and motivated, and who is statistically going to be less free to go on massive trips every week, or just kind of like lounge around, or just like, kind of like go with the flow.
Right.
Like, I see a lot less guys like that pulling high class or high value women than I see a lot less guys who just have the free flowing lifestyle pull high class women than I do guys who have a lot less free time who are driven pulling high class women,
Right.
or high value women, or however you want to phrase it. Right.
Sure.
And I think that again goes back to mentality perspective. And I think that's why driven people like you and I don't mesh with people who are not driven. And it's not just a fat or fit or overweight thing for us. It's just a general mental perspective thing. Like, if you aren't going to take advantage of the opportunities that you have, or take a hold and try to make the best of your life, despite the fact that the people around you are trying to help you, like, that's on you. And like, I am only willing to put so much mental energy in order to help you, because it takes away, me helping you takes away from my mental capacity to do the things that I need to do.
Right.
And if you're not even trying to take advantage of the opportunities I am giving you, why would I continue to give them to you? Right.
It's an interesting connection, because guys who are driven have to put things that they want to do on hold to spend time with a girl. So that automatically says, hey, you are more valuable to me than something else that I care about. I care about this thing, and I'm giving it up to spend time with you, which shows that you are more valuable to me than this other thing. Therefore, you're important to me. Right?
Yeah.
And guys who have nothing to compare that baseline to, it's like, well, what would you be doing if we weren't hanging out? And it's like, I don't know, probably like something else. So, I don't know, playing video games, or like, I'd probably go hang out with girls.
Scrolling.
Yeah. Right. Like, you have nothing of value to compare me to. So it's like, the girls, I think that girls want guys who will make the time to hang out with them, because the current guys they have don't actually care about them. They have other things that are more important, and they choose those other more important things over them. It was thus indicating, I would rather do this more valuable thing than hang out with you, meaning this thing is more valuable than you to me. And that's a fair position to be in, so long as you don't string someone along, which I think guys do all too often to these girls. And that's why girls who want to like way oversteer and get guys who will make a ton of time for them.
But they oversteer. And then I'm also making the additional leap on the argument to say that a guy who is driven and focused on his work, even if he turns down spending time with his partner, here and there to do business stuff or whatever he's doing, business, just example for us. Like, I'm making the leap further to say that guy is, despite the fact that that's contrary to what a lot of women say they want, that guy will actually long-term be more attractive to them than the guy who will continuously make time. Because then the guy who continuously make time, I think there's an aspect to a guy that, like, if you are driven and motivated towards a goal, you stand yourself as a leader. And I think that leadership position in a family dynamic is an important aspect for women, because I do genuinely think that there is a difference between how men and women function in a relationship. And I think how women function balances out how men dysfunction, and how men function balances out how women largely dysfunction.
Yeah.
And so that balance is there. And if the guy in the relationship is not putting up the strong suits, I just spit like 3 feet. That's wild. That's right here. Look at that. That's crazy.
All right.
If the guy isn't putting up his side of that puzzle piece, then I think the woman has a harder time long-term fitting into that puzzle piece, right?
Yeah.
Even if that's not what is directly expressed by the woman, because I think that largely, this isn't just for women, but I think largely what people say can be contrary to what they actually go for, right? And so I think that there's an aspect of like, what's the underlying driving force based on evidence that I see, or based on the reality that is presented to me through the evidence, right? And it's like, you can say one thing and do another thing. People do that all the time, which is why I make the distinction of like, women a lot of times say they want a guy that's like free all the time and available to hang out and stuff like that, but it doesn't actually reflect in the evidence of like puzzle piece relationships that I see. Because a lot of the really good puzzle piece long-term marriages that I see are like, the guy is driven to do something and he's working towards it and he's making it happen for the family, and then the woman is there to support that, and she has a lot of respect for him for that, because he's a driving leader force in the family position. Like that's kind of the argument I'm making there. Right?
I think that you can't never make time for somebody, because then you're indicating that the things that you're doing are more valuable than them, like at all times. Like there's got to be like specific points where you can say like, you know, I'm doing all of this to support us and to like make us better, but I also care about you to do it. You know what I mean? Like you have to take the time to show them that. I think there's two polar opposite ends, right? There's the, like we talked about, like the Sith deal and absolute thing from earlier. It's either like, I have nothing going on, I'm spending all my time with you, that's due to fail because then you're nobody, you have nothing going on, or I don't care about you at all because my business is more important than you, and like fuck off anyways. I think that the strongest relationships are ones, honestly, like Layla and Alex Ramosi, where you're working towards the same goal together. Yeah. Because then you're showing that you're both driven towards the same goal for each other. Like you're both in it together, right? Those are the best ones that I
hear that.
But like, no, like two people that are not driven at all together, I don't think it's going to work out either. Like if you're both open all the time to hang out with each other, I think that's due to fail eventually too. Yeah. Or even if not fail, like just not ever reach its full potential, you know? Agreed. I guess if you're not driven, it doesn't matter what kind of relationship you are, you'll never reach your full potential because you're not driven, right? Or maybe you are reaching your full potential and you just don't have that much to give. You know what I mean? Like you don't have a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I hear that.
Right. So like fat people who don't want to be skinny and don't care about it and don't care how they're perceived and just want to be fat anyways. Maybe that's all the potential they have. Maybe they don't have more in the tank than that, right? And that's fine, but you just can't drag other people down with it. You know?
Right.
Like
you can't make other people believe that you are actually healthy and you're going to live as long and you're going to have as easy of a time bearing children and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's delusional, you know?
Yeah.
And like, you know, if you're gonna, just fucking keep it to yourself. And like, if someone asks you about it, you can tell them your perspective, but like, don't drag other people down, you know?
Yeah.
I just saw, yesterday, I sent you a picture of the Target models, the Target Avengers.
Yeah.
Target is now, their models are just butt fucking ugly. And Sephora had the same fucking thing the other day. I went to the mall to get new jeans. And like the women that they're hiring for these ad campaigns are like, it's not representative of like the average person. Like, you know how models are supposed to be like, you know, oh, if you buy a product, then you might start to look like this person, right? Yeah. So you want someone who is like unobtainium, like not the average person, like above average beauty standards is supposed to be a model, right? Well, now they're like, well, that's not realistic. We want to show that like regular people can buy our product, right? And that doesn't really make sense to me because I want to buy the stuff that the best people are using, right? So like if it's a beauty thing, I want something the most beautiful people are wearing, not someone with a fucked up nose and a tooth gap, right? And they are all over the walls in department stores now. And I don't understand it because when I look at them, I go, oh man, I guess I'm not getting the red lipstick today because she looks fucking gaudy, right? And I can't tell if it's the lipstick or just the ugly stick she was beat with when she was a kid. But like, I don't want to look like that, right? And I don't know fucking why they're doing that.
Do you know Victoria's Secret backed out of that style of ad promotion and they're
Fucking
going
thank
back
God.
to their old style of just like models?
Thank God. Thank God. As they fucking should.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're trying to sell. You're trying to sell.
Have you seen the Andrew Schultz about fat models? I'm sure you have.
Man, it was just older. Is this not real?
Oh, it's a while back.
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen it.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I think the premise essentially is
Nothing makes me more infuriated than fat fucking models.
Yeah,
that's
because
the
models-
starting line.
Those
in that
models
market.
work hard. They get eating disorders. They smoke cigarettes. They do everything they can to keep their weight down. And then the fat people just lay there eating fucking McDonald's and say that they're beautiful.
The Andrew Schultz
jobs,
skit
they're worse
is
than immigrants. I think I
so
remember
good.
that skit. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, it's really funny. Look it up. You know,
It is really funny. No, it is, but it's also infuriating. He's totally right. It's
yeah, it is.
But the problem is that these models, some of them aren't even overweight. Some of them are just ugly. They can't help that, right? But it doesn't change the fact that like that's not what I want to see. Like that's not who I want using my product.
Yeah.
Unless you can do something special. Like Max Verstappen ain't exactly the prettiest face, right? But I buy Red Bull shit because I like what he's capable of.
Not all comedians are super attractive, but they tell funny jokes, and so they get an audience.
Exactly. But models don't have the opportunity to speak or say or perform because it's photos of them.
Yeah.
So the only thing that you can portray is your aesthetics. So are you in shape and are you naturally beautiful?
Do you work out in the gym? Do you care? Are you about fitness? Or are you just fat and wanting people to look at you?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like,
Exactly. And
that's the reality of it, I think. But
yeah, the fat models drive me insane because it's like you're
it's
catering
like,
to
what
fat
effort
people.
did you put in to become a model?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Well,
Like
you
models
know-
traditionally would go to the gym and become skinny and become fit, or male models would get into the gym, build muscle, you know, clean shaven, haircut all the time, like care.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like now it's like, do you need to not care to become a model? Because it seems as though there's more models who don't care about how they look.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like a complete reversal of what logic would tell you.
Right. It's weird.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
It's weird. And I think it's enabling fat people to like
It's like grid girls. Do you want like fucking ugly, fucking dead ass? You know what I mean? Like, do you want fucking, or do you want people who like care about presenting themselves well on the racetrack in front of fucking racing and cars? And it's like,
what do you want to put on display? Do you want to put something
Yeah.
on display that's attainable, or do you want to put something on display that's like the best?
yeah,
Right.
look at a fucking 2006 MotoGP race on the grid and tell me you don't fucking like that more than what they got now. Tell me with a straight face that you don't like that more.
It's kind of
Bullshit.
like an insurance company saying, "Hey, listen, you're gonna pay us monthly. We're gonna cover a bunch of stuff, but if there's a big expense, we're not gonna get you." Right?
Yeah.
Why the fuck would you advertise that? It's what's gonna happen because that's what like insurance companies do. But you don't say the quiet part out loud, right? Why would you say the quiet part out loud? That's what these models are doing. That's what these department stores are saying by hiring these models. Is they're saying like, you know, like
I'd be so interested to look at a study to see if it actually increased sales or not. I'm sure so interested.
I'm sure it increases sales because they can sell like their larger articles of clothing. Some of them are more expensive. There's more canvas.
Fair enough.
But I understand. What
Like
you're
I'm interested to see whether like actually having those different models to you know include a larger group of people leads to more sales. Like as
a larger
right
group of people.
and then on top of that,
larger
I'd be
people.
interested to see the return rate too,
Yeah.
because I'm sure there's a lot of you know fat people who went to buy a bra at Victoria's Secrets because they saw a fat model wearing one and they're like, oh, I could look just like that, and then they get it and they realize they don't look good in it because they're completely unfit and don't care about their health, and then they return it. Like I'd be interested to see like a sale versus return rate.
That's a wake-up call. That's a wake-up call. If you look at a fat model in a store and buy a bra because you want to look like her, and then you get home and you think you look too ugly to wear it, you have to return it, that's a wake-up call.
That is.
If you're uglier than the fat model of Victoria's Secret, you got to go into the gym. Like fucking stop eating entirely.
Have you seen that old doctor? He's like in his 60s, and all he does is like deal with overweight people.
Yeah, I think his name is Dr. No
Yeah.
from My 500-Pound Life.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw a clip of him the other day. He had like a patient who was like 600 or 700 pounds, and she was laying in bed, and like she wasn't eating anything that day because she's fucking 700 pounds.
Yeah.
And she's like, I have to have something else than water. And Dr. No comes up to her in his accent. He's like, you've eaten the next 4 years of food. You will be just fine.
Dude, one of his clips made me change my thinking about food, which is like, if I eat a donut today and then I don't work out for 3 months, when I do start like working out again, I'm not burning off the donut I ate that day. I'm burning off the donut I ate 3 months ago. So like whatever fat I'm carrying on me now isn't the piece of cheesecake that I ate last night from Cheesecake Factory. I'm currently burning off the fucking birthday cake that I had in October. Right? Like it's you can't warrant, and you can't say, well, I'll have a donut with lunch today because I'm going on a run this afternoon. Motherfucker, you've eaten a lot of donuts in your life. And you still have 35% body fat, right? And it's not easy to do. It's not easy to change. But like, I feel like these department stores are enabling fat people by trying to shift it's lowering the standard. It's lowering the bar. That's what all this DEI shit is this lowering the bar to make it more attainable.
Oh, the DEI shit's
This is DEI shit.
Yeah. Well,
it's diversity, equity, and inclusion.
The DEI shit, in what I thought of in my head was DEI shit in correlation to college admissions.
Oh,
it's fucking hilarious.
Fuck, what's it called?
For example,
hang on, what's the name? Let's
fuck.
It's not Title IX.
Oh my God.
It's not equity. It's I know you're talking about.
Oh my God, it's on the tip of my tongue. I just fucking forgot it. Damn it.
Affirmative action.
Thank you.
It's affirmative action.
I knew it was with an A and I couldn't put it to it.
Yeah.
Affirmative action is really fucking funny. Because, for example, Tufts University, while affirmative action was in effect, which is now not.
Which university?
Tufts, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay, got it.
Tufts was like, we are not lowering the standards, right? They didn't technically lower the standards of the SAT that they require or any of their testing. What they did instead is they made everything else like extracurriculars and like mental perspective about the world weigh a lot more in the application process than your SAT score.
Yeah, it's returned.
Right? So it's like, oh, we still want a 15, 20 on the SAT, but we just like want it a lot less now.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like, you know, like universities will come out and be like, we didn't lower the standards. And I was like,
you moved the goalposts.
Technically, you didn't lower the standards, but you really changed the goalposts around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right? And so it's like that shit's really funny to me.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's funny to me because it's like, how does it produce a better doctor?
It doesn't.
Right? Like I understand, and like this is a whole nother argument about like, you know, like people who have advantages in life versus, you know, people who aren't born into advantages, and like what's the deal there, and what's the scoop on opportunity, and blah blah blah. Like that's a whole nother conversation. Right now I'm segmenting it to like, how does changing your standards around to focus on what your sexuality is produce a better neurosurgeon?
Right.
Please explain that to me.
Right.
And show me a piece of data that says people who are questioning their sexuality are generally better surgeons.
Right.
Like show me that correlation, because I don't fucking see it.
Right.
And if I don't see it and there's no data out there, then I don't understand why you're doing it. Because at the end of the day, a neurosurgeon is a neurosurgeon.
Yeah.
Like they just need to fix brains.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
That's what it fucking comes down to.
And
it's not that complicated.
It's the same thing with moving the goalposts for fat people. Like, what are you doing not only for yourself but for everybody else by trying to become more fat?
Thank you for keeping me on track.
Yeah,
yes.
Of course. Well, no, it's the same thing, because you could say why is it important that we have doctors who are capable of being doctors? Because they impact the health of other people, right? And thus the furtherment of humanity, right?
Yeah.
Why is it important to not have a fat epidemic? Because then we're not going to have fat babies with health defects, and then the next generation of people be fucked up, right?
Yeah.
Like, Robert F. Kennedy always talks about all of the, like, you know, the increase in like autism rates because of like the red dye in our food or whatever. What if it's just because people are fat now? What if fat is the reason that people have all these health defects? They don't know. They don't know if it's the microplastics. They don't know if it's the fucking
Actually, there are some studies to show that there are some studies to show that the change in our food did correlate with a increase in autism.
But
it's still being studied. But
is it because there's more calories in the food?
Or is it just because it's like it's shit food that holds on to you? Is it chemicals?
Could be shit
chemicals in the water that turn the freaking frogs gay? We don't know.
That's right. Yeah. I don't see. I'll tell you this. I don't know. I don't see a lot of like physically fit people having retarded kids, right? Usually it's like overweight. It's like the same people that died of COVID. You don't see a fucking D1 athlete who's 22 years old die of COVID. You see the fucking 65-year-old dude who's got a BMI over 50.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Very rarely did anyone who was fit die. It was like less than 0.1%.
Yeah.
Well,
that was a motorcycle accident. They just marked it as a COVID death. I know that guy. But What I'll say is we don't know. It could be plastics in the food. It could be like the chemicals in it. It could be the calories. I have yet to see any documentation that being fat is healthier for you. I've seen nothing to prove that being fat. If you can even find one thing that proves that being fat is bad for you, then automatically, but due to lack of evidence of the contrary.
When's the last time you saw a 400-pound 75-year-old?
That's a good point. It's a great point. Have you seen the new oldest man alive? He's like 170. They found him in a cave in Budapest or something.
No.
He is skin and bone. He's very skinny, right? Not a big dude. I wonder what the oldest living person over like 280 pounds is, or 300 pounds.
That's a good
I
question.
wonder how long they live.
Probably like 60.
Yeah.
65.
I wonder what the oldest fat guy is who died. Like, what's the heaviest someone's been at the oldest age when they died?
Yeah.
Like, who's the heaviest 80-year-old to die? Who's the heaviest 60-year-old to die? It's a great point.
Yeah. It's like
Interesting. Yeah.
So
when you're encouraging other people that it's okay to be fat, it's okay for me to be fat, it's okay for you to be fat, being fat's actually a good thing, you're killing them.
it's okay for you to die young.
Yeah, it's a risk I'm willing to take, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So that's all I have too. I wrote out a dial-in quote, and then I wrote out 3 more because I'm passionate about this topic. So I'm just going to read all of them since we have the time.
Go for it.
The first one is, it's not what you got, it's what you do with what you got. And I like that because in sports particularly, I always cared more for the guys who tried hardest, not the guys who went the fastest. Because there were some guys that were pretty quick, but like didn't give 100%. But then there were some really slow guys who would fucking kill themselves every day, like just trying to get better.
Yeah.
And I have a huge amount of respect for those people. So doing what you can with what you have is more important than what you're able to do.
Yeah. I want to give a quick shout out for that. He'll probably never see this. Maybe he will. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Nathan Holmes, back when I was karting, was a kid who he really put everything he could put into karting and racing. And he wasn't the quickest in our indoor leagues. But he pushed and he persevered, and he went outdoors and he pushed and he persevered. And last I saw him, he was doing sponsored oval track racing.
That's awesome.
And I want to give a shout out to that kid, because he was someone on the track who really had to work his fucking ass off to get within the top 3. Really fucking work hard.
Right.
And you could look at him on paper and go, I don't know, right? But I remember talking to him. This was at a point I was getting close to going to college. He was younger than me by a few years. And I was getting around going to college and starting to focus on that sort of thing. And I was like, like, how are you raising the money for this? And he was like, oh, I go door to door in my neighborhood. And like, I really want to give a shout out to that kid and be like, dude, like, props to you, man. A, and like, B, like, I didn't even go door to door. You know what I mean? And like that was one of many things along my life and along my journey that has, continued to shift my perspective on things. And it's like, he went door to door to fucking businesses as a 15-year-old, asking for donations so that he could race on the weekend, and then race on the weekend and not even win, but continue to push because he had a dream and he knew he could make it. Nope, he wasn't fucking fat. That's for sure.
Good job, Nathan. I'm happy to hear about it.
No, he was a fit dude and he fucking cared and he worked his ass off for it. I want to give a shout out to that kid, because I think that he's gonna go really far. I haven't checked up on him as of late. Maybe I will after this podcast. But last I saw him, he was doing sponsored racing, oval track cars, and like a junior NASCAR style stuff.
That's cool.
Through a NASCAR sponsorship program.
That's awesome.
And he didn't come from money, and he just fucking worked for it. Yeah, he wasn't always the quickest, but he worked harder than any of us at the track, for sure. And I worked really fucking hard, but like, he did everything I did in terms of reading and prep and learning, and then he went door to door, and then he pushed, Like he had a better mental perspective on what it takes to become a racing driver than I did at that time, right? And like, I've gone through that learning curve, and I haven't always been perfect, but I just want to give a shout out, because he was far beyond his age and his mental acuity and a mental ability to push. And so I want to give a lot of respect to that kid. So, if he ever sees this, if, this podcast blows up one day and then, it reaches out to millions of people, maybe it'll get snipped on a TikTok reel by someone snipping off reels to make money. But
there's going to be a lot of snipped reels, I think, of us.
There's going to be a lot. I think there would be a lot of snips that'll probably get us in legal trouble. Honestly, maybe this one won't make the line, but
I don't think legal trouble. Maybe political correctness trouble, but like
probably.
Fuck.
Yeah. I'm gonna wear my MAGA shirt tomorrow for the inauguration.
Yeah. Oh man, I gotta go to work tomorrow. So my next quote is people think there's some complex formula to winning when the most basic one is do what you said you were gonna do before it became inconvenient. And that's a Hormozy quote. I feel like a lot of people run into this. You make a New Year's resolution. You say that you want to get fit. You want to say that you want to start working out. And then, you go to the gym one day and then the next day you're sore. So you're like, okay, well, I'm going to take a rest day. And then you get back in the routine. And then 2 or 3 days later, you're like, oh, well, I've only gone to the gym once this week. I should go back. But, well, I've got to cut the grass or I've got to feed the kids or I've got to go to work or I'm busy right now. It's inconvenient. Well, fuck you. My third quote is, if you're not in shape, guess whose fault that is? Another Hormozy quote, pretty straightforward. If people call you fat and that makes you upset, think about it. We didn't do it to you. You did it to yourself. And then the last one is, if you're tired of being out of shape, realize how lame it is that you literally suffer because you can't control what you put in your mouth like a baby.
Got him.
All I got.